coverage man kung sa una, kung nakuha is kani o kanong mga previous na ko nga i-discuss. So, if mahumanin ako, akong punan sa translational mechanical, muna siya akong coverage for the semi-final. But next week, dilim ta kami kay kurang half day na siguro na inyo. Di ba sa una, half day na last day sa October para makauli mo kayo sa
Gi-approve day sa kwan, miss?
wala pa kay. For the last 2 years, i-approve man siya. So, basin, approve po.
Kaya wako may memo ang sa kwan, miss? Sige.
Ano siya na siya class? Awit siya na mag-memo ang video sa una pa. Moto ako na siyang giuna. Medyo may pagkataas ulit siya. And then, balik ta sa translational mechanical. So, there are 2 types of feedback. Namely, the positive feedback and the negative feedback. So, for positive feedback, it adds the reference input RS and CS or other, tinatawag na siya o Y of S. Okay? And the positive feedback diagram, block diagram, muna siya class, na RS. We have a summing junction. Ay, nandiyan na ninyo si summing junction kay circle na na X. Okay? And na ay naka-indicate sa iya nga plus or minus. Summing man siya. Okay? Ang both pasabot na niya is either imong difference ang usa ka input or imong i-add ang usa ka input. But basically, you just need to sum up all those input. Okay, kay bisan pag naka-negative na siya, i-add mo pitan. A plus negative B. So basically, it's just A minus B. Okay? Mura rag imong i-add ang 2 different signs. Now, this is the positive feedback. Positive feedback. This is the feedback loop or path. Then, siya yung positive sign. So, that's a positive feedback. Class, kung mubasa mong line reference, no, maskin ako hangtod karon, balibog yapon ko kay nay uban, G is again. Labi na sa advanced control. Inyo kay feedback control po ni. So, this is called sometimes gains of a reference. This is also a gain for other reference. Okay? But in here, sa ato ang kaninga part sa discussion, kani ginatawag din siya nga transfer function G. Okay? And naa siya feedback na H. Nga ginatawag po nila nga kaninga feedback is in term of a transfer function. Okay? So, sa malibog mo sa mong line libro. By the way, ang source ani during my undergrad and during our review, wala po akong gigamit ron. Kani siya. Tutorials point. Wala po di gigamit na mo during undergrad and during our review. Okay? So, tinira ko nga po hapon. And the concept of transfer function, okay, later. Ito na discuss later. Now, since this is a positive feedback, okay, is a positive feedback control system. Now, the transfer function is the overall, most ay formulas atong overall gain, the transfer function or overall gain of positive feedback control system. T is equal to G all over 1 minus GH. Now, if you observe, positive feedback siya, but naka-negative siya. Okay? Now, if we have that, kung si CS, si CS, ang mapunta ni CS class, unang ninyong analyze na is the open loop. So for CS, ang mapunta niya is RS, G of S. Diba? Multiply na nimo. Okay? Ang moagi, do not mind this first. Okay, do not mind this first. Unahon nimo analyze ni open loop. Open loop doesn't have a feedback path. Diba? So open loop na siya. So ang moagi ni CS, ang maabot ni CS rather, is the population or the product of RS and GS. Now, kanang output class, i-fed back na niya pa doon sa atong input. Okay? Now, since CS is equal to RS times GS, okay, we can find our Y, ako sa evolution kasi.
Magmatlab. Ay, di ko ano dito.
For now, dili pa nakamatlab.
Sa looping mo dito sa Smith.
Okay. So, di ba class, si CS in an open loop system is equal to RSGS. Di ba? Now, that RSGS class is i-fed back na sa ato ang output, kinang siya feedback path, padong diri. But during our feedback na to class, naman ni siya, ang kani siya, it is connected to a gain. Sorry, na to class ng gain. G lang ako. This is connected to the transfer function block G. Right? So, si CS, na po siya G, maagi siya ni H. So, we have G or CS, GCS multiplied with the feedback transfer function. Okay? Kung may ko gain class transfer function na siya, maana na siya po. Okay, kasi akong class man as a student, gain siya di siya. Kani? Gain siya di siya.
Pero ang kanan doon is kay transfer function.
Yeah, diha, transfer function na siya. I-assist ni siya, manani siya yung transfer function. Kani po, it can be a block containing a transfer function. Okay?
Pero kuan miss kung mag-gain na malay ang equation.
Ang gain class, same ra gihapon, pero tawag siya is gain kay, di ba? Ang mga transfer function in terms of S, for example, S all over S squared plus 4S plus 3. Di ba? Kani siya, pwede man ma-intern sa na siya ang gain. Pwede nimo ibutang nimo dito. A transfer function kani is the overall gain of this system. Kaya depende dyan na sa pag-iterate sa inyo sa question. So, analyzation gihapon. Sa mga sa English. i-factor out. So G ang i-factor out, which is dapat kaniya akong i-factor out sa CS. Okay, we need to have, transfer function is in terms of output over input man, di ba? So C of S. So C of S akong common. So C of S minus GH, C of S equal GRS. So CS and CS here are common from here. So So akong i-transpose kani nga term padung diri, right? And pabilin si GRS. Positive na mo siya negative. Now, factor of CS 1 minus HG or GH equal to GRS. Now we need to find CS over RS. So si CS pabilin si RS ibulang diri. Si G pabilin kung man si 1 minus GH diri ni CS para CS ay mabilin. So G all over 1 minus GH muna siya ang transfer function sa ato ang positive feedback. Now, if negative feedback siya class, transpose kaya positive pa siya. Diba? Later. In this type of feedback, so in this type of feedback, in this type of control system, the feedback signal is added with the input signal in the controller. It is the very least used type as it has less control all over the error. In the industry class, although gagamit o positive feedback control system, much used si negative feedback. Okay, kaya pwede man niya ma-filter. If filter niya ang noise, pwede po niya ma-amplify ang frequency or the bandwidth of the system. Kaya kung gamit mo kung positive feedback control system, kung di ba, positive feedback is wala siya in an open loop, di ba, walay in open loop. In a positive feedback, plus siya. So ang input nga musog sa iya ha, i-feedback ma-plus man siya.
Okay.
So imbis ang original signal na siya mga noise, okay, i-feedback rin hapon to niya ang noise. Kaysa kung mag-negative feedback ka, in a negative feedback system, pwede man niya ma-filter any noise at kung dili man perfect, at least makuhaan. Okay?
Bali, miss na de gyud na ko na CMRR ang sa kuan.
Yes, kabantay mo in industry, mas used si inverting kaysa ni non-inverting. Although, naagyapon si non-inverting, maybe in a compound system or in a complex system gamiton siya. But, more popular si inverting amplifier. The same with the negative feedback.
Ibalik na ako kay ikaw. Tas nung ito. Bitaw.
Okay. Yes. Paano siya na sila? Doktor na sila. Now, T is our transfer function or overall gain of positive feedback control system. G is the open loop gain. Sa mga class, mas ginatawag na siya o forward transfer function or direct transfer function.
PTA.
H is the gain of feedback path or the feedback transfer function. Si GH class is the open loop transfer function because in an open loop, ang makita ara again, in an open, supposed to be class, in an open loop, ano na siya? RS, naatay junction, naatay G, we have another gate H here. What time mo? GH. Open loop, si H. Gain. Well, ngayon ganina, that gain H here can be in, matawag na siya nga, night transfer function. So, kana gain. Or kana gain is in term or in a form of a transfer function. Dili lang siya single term. Transfer function siya. Nga isolve from equations. Unang class, ang tudron ako, malibog hapon. Okay? Magdepende dyan na sa analysis sa kalibog na manggay ko. Okay? So, magdepende sa analysis. Ako gimin nga maglibog class, if ingon ana lang siya pa, dili jud i-mention sa teacher gani nga. Kani siya nga G, okay, gain siya nga in terms of transfer function. Okay? Or kani siya nga G is a transfer function.
Pero by kuan miss by default kay kuan jud na siya.
By default in FCS FCS, that's a transfer function. For FCS, for advanced control system, by default, that's a gain. Which is both control systems. Okay? So, wala mo may advance. Okay na. C over R class is the control ratio. And E over R is the, mas known siya sa mga sensitivity. Pwede po siya tawagon o actuating signal ratio or the error ratio. And for B over R, that's noise. Or the primary feedback ratio. So the denominator of our transfer function G, which is also identical to C of S over RS, is called the characteristic equation. Kanang denominator gani sa atong, this is the overall gain of our positive feedback control system, right? Now, this denominator here, kung i-equate na mo 0, that is the characteristic equation. Wherein you can use that in solving root locus. Okay, abot mo na root locus.
Pagkaon na, miss.
Daily. Okay, so we have negative feedback. So for negative feedback, it reduces the error between the reference input, same sa yung kanina, and the system output CS or Y of S. The following figure shows the block diagram of a negative feedback control system. So kung positive to say positive feedback, pag abot dire, negative na siya. Now, if you solve that one,
ma-positive si
yes,
Kuan.
ma-positive siya, kaya mo siya i-transpose. So, if this is negative, okay, so ma-negative na siya. And i-transpose mo, ang positive siya. So, this is positive. Igabot dire, positive sa siya. Now, in a positive feedback control system, the denominator is negative. In a negative feedback control system, the denominator is positive. Okay? Pero ang iyang sign dire, kung negative feedback, it's a negative feedback. It's a negative sign. Okay? Now, this is the transfer function. Plus naman siya. Okay? Now, the feedback signal is subtracted from the input signal in the controller. It is the most used type as it has great accuracy and control in the process. It tries to decrease the error by bringing input and output close to each other. So, same rin siya class nga ma-apply sa ato ang negative feedback control system. Now, the denominator of our overall gain is the characteristic equation of a negative feedback control system. 1 plus GH equal to 0. Dapat i-equate ninyo para may equation. Equate to 0. So, we have effects of feedback on overall gain. So, overall gain ta. So, from our equation 2, atong equation 2 class kay kana. The overall gains of our feedback control system. Okay, muna siyang equation 2. We say that the overall gain of the negative feedback closed loop control system is the ratio of G plus and the 1 plus GH. So the overall gain may increase or decrease depending on the value of 1 plus GH or depending on the value of our denominator. Now, if the value of our denominator 1 plus GH is less than 1, kung gamay atong denominator, of course, dako ang atong overall gain. Di ba? In a fraction, if gamay ang atong denominator, dako atong value. Now, in a fraction, if dako atong denominator, mo gamay ang ato ang overall value or overall gain. The same applies here. Okay? Now, in this case, GH value is negative because the gain feedback path is negative. That's the condition. Now, if it is greater than 1, thus decreases our overall gain, then GH value is positive because the gain feedback path is positive. Okay? Those are the so in general, G and H are functions of frequency. Oh, functions of frequency. Of course, it's correct. Okay? Because gain is affected by frequency or bandwidth. Of course, ang kanang transfer function, when it is in terms of a S, pwede man siya may gain. So, frequency, yapon siya. Both, so the feedback will increase the overall gain of the system in one frequency range and decrease in the other frequency percentage. Mag-depende sa ato ang denominator. Okay? Now, we have effects of negative feedback in a closed loop control system. I think ako ni siyang pabantay mo lahi ang phone. Lahi ni siyang reference. Ang buti, kunin ko ang reference. Ako na lang i-paste. Last year pa ni good. So, we have first, reduces the parameter variation by a factor of 1 plus GH. It reduces the effect of noise and disturbance of the system performance. Bandwidth increases by the factor of 1 plus GH. Maminaw ang tanan kay basin ako itabi nga wala sa board ako i-question ninyo oral recitation. Okay? The system becomes more accurate, improves the sensitivity of the system, labi na kung negative feedback. A good system should be less sensitive to parameter variations but sensitive to the input command. Of course, it must be less sensitive to parameter variations. If ever naidagang vibrations, sumutaas ang inyuhang chances nga naay mga noise, unwanted signal. Right? Now, if it is on negative feedback, especially if you're using negative feedback, kana siya class, is pwede man niya ma-filter out. I-fed niya, pwede niya ma-filter out ang mga error. Right? Muna po ito ibutang sa iyang input. So, even if there are parameter variations in that surrounding area or in that environment, okay, i-improve niya class ang kanang system nga less sensitive siya. But it is sensitive to the input command. Of course, murag ibutang pa nato sa ato ang term is dapat maghangol siya sa ibutang nga input because that input is the original signal. Okay? Kung for example, nagtabi itang duha, dapat katabi ni mo amiga, layo ta duha, ita nag-test na yan, sinundugan na ita. Okay? Yan, dapat sinundugan na diya sa kilid, lahi lang question. Kita lahi po question duha. Okay? Kato siya, that is an example of parameter variation. That's an unwanted noise. Kay lahi akong gipungtana sa imuha, di kaabot sa imuha. So ikaw nga ang utana, ako yung muha ta o answer, ikay na utana. So ikaw nga nagnidog input sa kuha,
Manghangol sa answer.
nagnidog answer sa kuha, na parameter variation. Ang imuha is kung gamit kag negative feedback, ma-filter out to nimo ang parameter variation. Ang kuha nimo is maduhog nimo ako ang tingog unsay answer. Diba? Inana ang analysis. Okay? Mag-crave ka class nga makuha jud nimo ang answer gikan sa kuha. Mangita kag system nga mo filter out those or in order for that system mangita ka og control system in order for that system nga imong buhat to be less sensitive to those variation.
Nanay ko, miss.
Okay? Pwede ba nimo sitsitan? May nas ma'am. Wadi kay. Diba? Okay, mo na siya example. Okay, better than that. Don't worry. Okay. So next, we have negative feedback in a closed loop reduces gain, improves the bandwidth, and disturbance rejection. Also, it reduces the sensitivity, balik na siya, to parameter variation.
Unsay naong ana sa kuan, miss? Like sa feedback mo?
Question, clarification.
Unsay kuan, miss kanang naong ana na kuan loop, miss?
Kato. Ito negative. Oh, sa man.
Ang kanang naay kuan, miss pa? Ang kanang naay bandwidth nga maka-apekto sa kuan.
Di, ang bandwidth, di man na mo makita ang frequency. Frequency is everywhere. Diba? Pakita na mo siya kung nakikapit nga oscilloscope siguro everywhere. Because oscilloscope, pwede mo na mo with the use of our oscilloscope, of course, na nakakapit sa iya ang mga other ng mga devices, makita mo ang mga frequency. Una kay input nga frequency. Okay? Kung makabakita, imong voice is dako jud ka nga imong voice is somewhat naa sa mga 50 dB. Kung inalimot ko sa mga frequency. 50 dB. So, imo na input dito 50 dB. Okay? Makita nimo sa oscilloscope kung sine wave sa imong 50 dB nga voice. Di ba? Pwede madungog na to is around 90. Pinaka-max na ng 110. Kung wala siguro ba ano gawin? 110.
90, miss.
Okay? So, for frequency, Okay, ibutang na dito class. For example, wala tayo, ako selos ko, pwede siguro, pero request pa ako. Laing, kung tayo selos ko. ACEEE. For example, class, mayon na sila, kuni ang frequency nga lisod. If this is inverting amplifier, muni ang frequency mo gawas. Diba?
Yung mo feedback na siya sa kuan Miss.
Yes. Kung fed na siya balik. Igabot diri ay igabot diha class kana pa na. Madlaan man siya feedback path with respect sa ato resistor, mubalik na siya diri. With tungod ani feedback path class, ibalik niya inverted na siya. Okay? For na non-inverting amplifier, bisan pa o naka-fed na siya but it is a non-inverting man. Sud sa iyang system, naka-design na siya nga bisag unsang input nga imuhang ginasud, dili pwede i-invert. Non-inverting of course.
Amplifier is never ending na pagpada ko.
Yes, if kung unsang imong input, mura po rin mo input. Kung padakpo nimo gain maayo, which is not good for the system, okay? Nay uban system nga imong aim is dili padakon, nay dili mo padakon, depende jud na sa design sa imong system. Okay, ikaw na engineer, ikaw jud mag-design. So kung ganahan ka padakon nimong gain, hala padakon nimong gain. I-amplify nimo maayo. Kung gamay, okay, gamay. Much better kung gamay. Okay? Now, we have the effect of feedback on sensitivity. Okay? For the sensitivity of the overall gain of negative feedback closed loop control system to the variation in open loop gain G. Diba? What is G? Open loop gain na po. Okay? But in there, it is a transfer function. Okay. Okay na lang. So, it's defined by S, na superscript na T, na subscript na G. It is equal to the partial derivative of T with all over T. Dili na with respect to T class ha. Partial derivative of T all over T. All over partial derivative of G divided by G. Which is ang kani equal to the percentage change in T all over kani, which is ang kani class is percentage change in G. Now, this, I think this is delta. Nalimot yung focus. Delta nga kanang capital or lower case ba na siya. Is the incremental change, kuha na lang siya class, partial T na lang ako tawag na. Change in T due to the incremental change in G. So if we rewrite this one, okay, kanang partial T all over T, all over partial T with respect to G. Now, dividing two fractions, di ba, mabali man na siya. Partial T over T with respect to G all over partial G. So, ilan lang interchange, of course. It is in product form with commutative na siya. Okay? So, partial T all over partial G equal to G over T. Okay?
Mangilabot pa may sa differential na Miss.
Di, iyan ang explain.
Okay.
So, do partial differentiation with respect to G in both sides. So, kani siya class, di ba, partial T all over partial G. What's our transfer function with respect to a negative feedback control system? We have G all over 1 plus GH. That's our T. Di ba? Partial T, partial T, partial G. What's our T?
1 ay G over 1 plus GH.
Muna siya diha. Kasi may mo ba, Miss, asa ang T? Nawa? This is the T, the transfer function of the negative or the overall gain of our negative feedback control system. Okay? Now, you differentiate it in terms of this. How do you differentiate this one? Gamit mo ni QR. Quotient rule. Wherein U dV minus VDU minus UdV all over V squared. Or VU prime minus UV prime all over V squared. Okay. Now, what's our V? 1 plus GH. You derive G, in terms of G, that's 1. Diba? Derivative of G with respect to G is 1. G over G is 1. Minus G, what's the derivative of 1? 0. GH in terms of G, any
H.
mag-partial H kaya nasa DPS. If you do partial differentiation and with, for example, with respect to G, again, para may lang ako, any variable aside from G is considered constant. Basta ko yung si G. But since in here, since in here, H is together with G, if together siya ni G plus H is considered constant. You derive G, pagawas, sakto. You derive G with respect to G, that's 1.
Pwede na ng kuhan ma.
Diba? All over 1 plus GH squared. So this is equal to ilan yung plus? 1 minus GH minus GHG.
Na factor ay
Times 1 minus GH.
nakuha ano kuhan miss? Ay.
Sakto. Pwede rin sa na class.
Pwede na miss. Nakakuha po. So, kuha no? Di kay kuhan man kanang partial differentiation sa kuhan G with respect to G. So, kan yan kay kuhan.
Minus na ba rin? Minus na GH.
Ay, angay mo pasabot ang 1 anak kanang
Si GH lagi. Ay, gusto mo din ako.
Minus na ba rin?
Dura dito eh. So, may glass. Totoo juga yun.
Okay ra miss pareha ra ta miss.
Basta pumunta ko niya.
Sabado pa jud kayong dako.
Yes. Okay. Partial D, partial is equal to 1 plus GH. Wala na lang ako si 1 ha.
Okay.
Minus GH all over 1 plus GH squared. Mawa man si GH. So 1 all over 1 plus GH squared. Now this is the formula for the partial T all over G. Dili pa na siya sensitivity. Okay? Now since we have this, okay, and we have our characteristic equation, we have the denominator for our negative feedback.
Wala lang yan.
Okay?
Do man na ta 8.
And 1 plus GH, that is our G of T. Muna siya, denominator na siya plus. Okay? Muna siya ito ang denominator. Di nang ikuha, miss. Okay? Di ba muna siya ito ang kasunod. Diba? Kaya taon man nato daw si G over T. Pwede rin may switch. G over T.
H ay 1 plus GH.
Or basically the denominator of that specific control system.
Yes.
Okay, so since this is a negative should see ang popular. So you are using 1 plus GH for G over T. Now, for the sensitivity, ang formula sa itong sensitivity is partial T with respect to G multiplied with G over T. Now, this is our partial T with respect to G. Multiplyan ani, mahabilin, usa na lang. Diba? This is the partial T with respect to G. This is the G over T. I-multiply ni mo, naman ni usa dire, diba? Magbuha ang usa dire, mabilang usa. So, 1 over 1 plus GH.
Bali miss, ang usa ka kuan 1 over 1 plus GH kay sensitivity, then ang usa kay kuan sa
Kani siya, sensitivity and overall. Ang kani is the partial T with respect to G. Our transfer function with respect to our gain G. Kana ba?
Tapos ang GT.
Of course. And G of T is from our equation 2, which is our overall gain.
Plus GH.
Okay, of the negative feedback control system. So, i-multiply ni mo
ay
diha.
partial T with respect
Okay,
to
2 minus
G.
1. 1 minus 2 is negative 1. Yan. Negative 1, denominator mo na siya. So, iputang naman namin. So, 1 all over 1 plus GH.
It's
Okay? So, we've got the sensitivity of the overall gain of the closed loop control system as the reciprocal of 1 plus GH. So, i-reciprocal lang ni mo ang G over T. Okay? So, that is our sensitivity. sensitivity may increase or decrease depending on the value of 1 plus GH. Same na siya ganina.
Bali, miss, ang katong formula dahil kong kanina, kaya dahil gikan sa pag-derive anak niya.
Dili siya, ang gani siya, it's for sensitivity only. Katong
Okay.
result ganina, ito siya overall gain. Next, we have stability. A system is said to be stable if its output is under control. Otherwise, it is said to be unstable. If our overall gain, G all over 1 plus GH, if the denominator value is 0, no saman siya ma-0. Kung si GH kay negative 1. Diba? This is our transfer function. No saman ma-0 si denominator.
Kung
Kung
negative
si
1,
GH kay
Negative
negative 1.
1.
1 plus negative 1, 1 plus
Zero.
1 is 0. Now, if that happens, the output of a control system will be infinite. 1 all over 0 is supposed to be indeterminate or, since di mo siya ma-define, so that's infinite.
absurd.
Okay? That makes our system unstable. Now, that is one of the conditions nga mahibaw-an nimo si system is unstable. Okay?
So, kung
Yes.
negative ang
There are lots of conditions. Puhon, mahibaw na to.
Aboy.
Nga makaingon ka nga si system is unstable. Okay? Now, in this time, kung denominator is 0, of course, pure math, 1 over 0, that's indeterminate form.
Absurd.
But in here, considered infinite because we cannot define it. Okay, that makes our control system unstable. Therefore, we have to properly choose the feedback in order to make the control system stable. Okay, so kung ikaw nga engineer, ganahan ka o inani nga design, so you need to choose the feedback, the correct feedback system. Effect of feedback on noise. Okay, so to know the effect of feedback on noise, let us compare the transfer function relations with and without feedback due to the noise signal alone. Okay, and N of S, that is with respect to the unwanted signal, or NS lang iyahang i-denote the rate. So we have the input, we have another transfer function GA here, we have another G here. Natay block diri. We have a summing point or summing junction, we have plus and plus. So this is an open loop. The open loop transfer function due to noise signal alone is equal to CS noise signal man. Okay, so kuha na lang ito
Irrelevant
ninyo. Disregard.
signal.
Yes. Equate na ito ninyo nga 0. Ang kato nga input. Okay?
Kung noise signal alone, miss.
Yes, noise signal alone. Due to noise signal. So CS, so it is obtained by making the other input RS equal to 0. So since due to noise signal, of course, wala nila ko itong input. Okay? So taon na nimo kung due to noise signal, output all over input is just equal to this transfer function.
Yes.
Okay? Consider a closed loop control signal with noise. This is with regards to noise also. Okay? Now, it has a feedback. Of course, it is a closed loop. Okay? So the closed loop function due to noise signal alone is, of course, the general formula is G all over 1 plus GH. But since we have two blocks of G here, so GA, GB, H, i-multiply na mo. Since these two are cascading ra. Kung wala ka na rin mo sa aming
Go
junction.
over 1 plus gado.
Okay? So GB, ang dool niya nga G, all over 1, product sa duha ka, transfer function or gain block, multiplied with the feedback block H. Okay? Now, if you compare equation 7 and 8, kanas na duha, in the closed loop control system, the gain due to noise signal is decreased by a factor of 1 plus GA GBH, provided that the term 1 plus GA GBH is greater than 1. Kung less than 1 ang ato denominator,
Zero.
then ano siya yung 0? Kung
Infinite.
less than 1, dili.
Ay,
G, kung less than 1 ni siya, kung saan na siya? Di ba dako ni? Atong aim dire is kami atong aim.
Oh.
Okay? The gain due to noise signal is decreased by a factor of 1 plus JGBH. Depende din sa system. Okay? Kung patasan ninyo yung paggamit ninyo. Pero upang system class, paggamit nila ang gain. Okay? Kung paggamit nila ang gain, naman ko diha si common gain. Common gain is with respect to noise signal. Depende on sa mga gain, inyong ganahan. Frequency gain, voltage gain, common gain, okay, differential gain. We have here advantages of feedback control system. This is from another reference. Reduction of nonlinear effects which are most often seen in open loop system or without feedback. Kung unsa ang input, bisag napa na yung noise diha, mo na dawaton sa output. Okay, reduction of external noise and disturbance. We have increase in efficiency, accuracy, and quality. Reduction in instability and process uncertainties. The transient response can be easily controlled. And improvement in gain and bandwidth. Next, we have the block diagram algebra. Okay, so basic elements of block diagram. We have here the block, summing point, and the takeoff point. So we have here, this is the summing point or ginatawag sa mga reference and summing junction. These are blocks, G and G of S and H of S are considered blocks. And this node here is the takeoff point. Okay? Arrows indicate the direction of the flow of signals. So we have block. The transfer function of a component is represented by a block. Block has single input and single output. Single input, single output. We have a block of transfer function. So the transfer function for this one is output all over input, which is this. If you are solving for the output, you just need to cross multiply G and X.
Universal din ang kuan mismo, formula sa gain.
Yes. Depende dyan na siya. Gain is universally output all over input. Summing point. The summing point is represented with a circle X, with a circle having cross X inside it. It has two or more inputs and single output. It produces the algebraic sum of the inputs. It also performs the summation or subtraction or combination of summation and subtraction, same sa mga kanina, of the inputs based on the polarity of the inputs, positive, negative. Let us see these three operations one by one. So we have here this one. So we have input A, input B, positive, positive, A plus B ato output. Okay? Wala yung buhaton. Next, we have here first input plus, second input minus. So A minus B. Or negative B plus A. It's the same. So muna yung bugawas dire. Okay? Next, we have here multiple. We have A, B, C. Pwede nimo ibutang A plus B minus C or A minus C plus B. Parehara na sila.
Ang science lang dyan importante.
Yes. Kung asa siya na butang nga sign or unsay sign nga gidelegate sa iyaha. Okay?
Left side mo.
Next, we have the takeoff point. The takeoff point is a point from which the same input signal can be passed through more than one branch. That means with the help of takeoff point, we can apply the same input to one or more blocks, summing points. So this is an example of takeoff point. Naka-node na siya, class.
Mura na siya kuan, may summing amplifier na
Yes, mura na siya summing amplifier. But si summing amplifier is dili siya ga imbestiga
That's so good.
na diri class. Di ba? Input voltage, we have resistor. Yan, nakausa sila, amplifier na yun. Diba? In here, na input, it is connected to three transfer functions, GA, GB, GC. Of course, dahil lahat po sila og output. RS with respect to GA, ipangalan ni CA, which is just equal to GARS. The same goes here and of course here. Okay? Now, in the following figure, the takeoff point is used to connect the CS as one of the inputs to the summing point. Next, we have another takeoff point, but this is the regular negative feedback control system. Now, this is the takeoff. Okay? Ana siyang feedback. Ana siyang point mo feedback.
Wala nila ginagkatong kuan mismo. Kung sa ka-block sa ubos, pang H.
Yes, consider H is equal to 1. If may nanamit.
Kung wala ang kuan.
Makita na rin namin, makita na later. Now, basic connections for blocks. Okay. Now, there are three types of connections between two blocks. We have the series. Itawag na siya cascade. In the following figure, two blocks having transfer function G1S, G2S are connected in series. If they're connected in series, class, you just need to multiply those two blocks. Okay? Si y of s class is the product of this block or transfer function multiplied to this. But this is the product of these two. Okay?
So, ma-expand
ang
pa siya.
input multiplied with the transfer function ay output na z of s. Ang output na z of s mo ay input sa atong g2 of s. Kung i-multiply ang 2 mo na siya output y of s. So basically, our y of s is equal to zs g2s. Right? Kani. Now since zs is equal to g1 xs, okay? Imo na siyang i-transfer. So zs y of s is equal to g2s zs. Now zs is equal to this one. Okay? So g2 of s, kung sa'yo sunod na g2 of s, di ba zs, which is kani. So i-multiply. Okay? Now since this is on product form, pwede na commutative. G2 G1 G2s or pwede kani, multiply na, pwede ka na, multiply na. Same ra.
Yes.
It is on product form.
Minsan ka na lagi sa bracket na lagi mo.
Okay, bracket niya para nakakuan na siya. Dito ka ni. Parenthesis. Pwede po ni parenthesis ninyo.
Ay, katong alam mismo.
Bracket. Sige, unsa gini siya? Brace.
Curly brace.
Okay, kani. Pwede na, depende na para mahibawan na niya kaniyang gamit or pwede pud kani mong iko, pwede kani mong kuyog.
Yeah, G1 eh, gawas?
Yes, pwede po. Okay. Kaya ang imong aim naman jud is multiply naman jud ang tulo. Okay? But in your class, ang iya lang gihimo is i-common. Iya lang gisod as 1 ang G. Okay? Kay same man sila nga block. Okay? Next,
Puppet, no?
we have here series connection. O, di ba? Multiply lang niyan. This is the equivalent block diagram of a cascade connection or series connection. Okay? Parallel connection. The blocks which are connected in parallel will have the same input, XS. Two blocks having transfer function G1 of S, G2 of S. Of course, nice having point. Okay, we have two blocks here having one input. Pag si Y1 class is equal to G1 of S, XS. And Y2 is equal to G2 of S, XS. Now, the overall output is equal to the sum of Y1 and Y2. Y1 is kato, Y2 is kana. If you add those two, kani. So, G1 of S plus XS times XS.
Yes.
Puppet naman.
Yes.
Wala na number.
Wala pa. Kaya, follow ba?
Wala pa rin.
Wala pa rin. So, yan na. Tela na dahil mo na ito.
Yan eh.
Which ang klasa?
Last year bro. Wala ka na-order.
Lain pa mga border t-shirt sa katikat. Kuya na eh. Oh, ikaw saan ni Puranda na rin anak ko din. Oh, kapal.
Okay, going back. So the overall output for this parallel connection is the sum of y1 of s and y2 of s. Now y1 of s again is equal to this one, and y2 of s is equal to this one. If you add this common si xs, pwede namin pagawa si xs, g1 of s plus g2 of s, or kung di mo ganahan, alay, gamitan na yun. Okay? Talhan mo papel. Okay. So, for cascade, inyo lang buhatong class is i-plus ang duha ka block, multiplyan ni mo og input. For G of S, kung imo ni buhatong G of S, it is just equal to G1 of S plus G2 of S. Okay? You cannot, pwede na ninyo yung mind class. Basta ang important is. Okay. Okay. So, this is the equivalent block diagram for a parallel connection. Next is the feedback connection, which is just a regular negative feedback. Okay? Sorry. Okay. Negative feedback. For feedback connection class, that's just a regular feedback connection. Kung positive feedback siya, negative. Kung negative feedback, kung positive feedback, negative. Kung negative feedback, positive. Okay, ang napalahin lang is E of, with respect to S na siya. G of S, H of S, ang atuang transfer function. Okay. Now, this means we can represent the negative feedback connection of two blocks with a single block. So, ang aim na dyan ani connection class is it aids with the reduction of block diagram, which is atong next topic. Okay. Libre. Summing points. So, we have here another way to aid block diagram reduction. So, there are two possibilities of shifting summing points with respect to blocks. Okay? So, we have here after the block and the before the block. Okay? Makalibog niya mga terms na ni class. So, consider the block diagram in the figure. We have input. We have another input. So, mugawas dire RS plus XS. Multiple with GS. Sabos. Okay. So Rx plus XS times GS, so ito ni, substitute, distribute, so GS RS, magdalikod ko na. And GXS. Okay, so muna tayo equation 1. Now, if we shift it after the block, so ang previous nga diagram, pamina mo sa term na ko ha. Diba atong subtopic karon is after the block. Shifting summing point after the block.
Yes.
So kung naa siya diri, for our previous diagram, the summing point is before the block. Now, our future diagram must be after the block.
Yes.
Okay? Now, for our future diagram class, dapat, ingon ani na siya.
YS.
Okay? But before we go down on that one, if we solve this, di ba mo, ni siya, Y of S is equal to GSRS plus GSXS. Now, if we shift it after the block, mo na ni siya ang future diagram.
GSRS plus S.
Okay? So, pag abot niha,
Equals to YS.
so Y of S is equal to GSRS plus XS.
Yes.
Mo ni siya. Now, if you compare the two, same sa kaninga part, same ang first term, but for the second term, dili mao. Dapat si futures, pareha ni past. Okay? Si future diagram, ang equation ni future diagram, dapat same sa equation ni past diagram. Okay? Kasabot wala. Okay. So, ang buhaton class, dapat na correction. Kaya pati yan ta, kung math pa na, nagbuhat ang correction, watay gibuhat, nag-alter ta niya, watay gibuhat nga correction, patay ta ni math. Okay? Same for Laplace ba, di ba? Correction. The same goes here. So, atong buhaton is, asa na to? After, okay. Magbutang ta, usa ka block. Para, i-abot dire, GSRS, diba supposed to be GSRS, G plus GSXS. Now, if we put another block here, kaya wala ka na siya kanina. Diba, after shifting, before, after, dapat si XS na dire. But dili man sila parehong equation. Si future diagram, ang equation ni future diagram is not identical to the equation of the past diagram. So, atong buhaton, ang inyong pagi nga, ma-equate silang duha. Therefore, if you put another block here, if you multiply these two, this is GS, XS. If you add those two, mahimo siyang YS equal to GSRS plus GSXS, which is identical na siya sa past. So, the real future diagram must be equal to this one. Kuha. Okay. Next, subtopic, before the block. So, kung atong topic kanina, after the block, karon before the block. Okay? So, atong past, supposed to be past is nadiri. Diba? abot sa future, nga mo ni siya yung equation, di ba? GSRS plus XS. Pag abot sa equation, ato na siyang gi-shift before sa block. Okay? So, mahitabo is GSRS plus GSXS. Kani, multiply ka na, distribute mo ni siya. Diba? Now, this one is not the same with this one. Naa siya extra nga G of S. So, imong buhaton, magputang yan pagka-block. But, reciprocal. Okay? So, pag-abot niri RS,
Transfer lang.
RS, pag-abot niri XS, kung imong utang nga reciprocal ni GS, that's RS plus XS, nila sakto. XS 1 over GS, imo multiply. Diba? Now kani, imo naman sang i-multiply diha. Okay? So R of S
RS excess na lang.
plus, akong nilay bitaw sa XS sa babaw ha. Multiplication mag-ihapon na.
GS.
All over G of S. Now this 2 must be multiplied with the G of S. So R of S, G of S, plus X of S, which is identical to the equation of the previous level. Okay. Kuha? Okay. Now, we're done with summing points. Now, natin ni take-off points. So, for take-off points, we have after. So, for after, we have XS. Okay? Dili siya input plus sa summing point lang siya. Another branch. Nag-introduce siya another branch or another path. So, RS, not a XS. Now, since RS here is an input, na siya yung take-off point niya. So, kung na inisod ni RS, mura po yung gusto ni XS. Sorry po. Okay. Now, si YS is just equal to RS GS. Okay? Straight lang na siya. Kuha.
Yes.
Open loop lang na siya. Now, when you shift the take-off point after the block, kung si take-off point, ibutang ni mo dire, the output Y of S will be the same. But there is a difference in XS value. So, igabot ni mo dire class, si XS is RSGS na siya. Dili na siya RS. Dapat RS raman siya. Okay? So, imong buhaton, magbutang ka og 1 over G of S. Para i-multiply ni mo, same diha, XS all over 1 over G of S. Igabot diri class, di ba? Ay, sorry. Di ba ang output diri kay R of S, G of S. Multiplyan ni mo sa X of S all over G of S, mawala man ni siya. Okay? Now, ang mahitabo, si XS is just equal to our R of S. Okay. Take off point before the block. So XS is equal to YS, and which is equal to RGS. G of S, RS. Now when you shift the takeoff point before the block, the output Y of S will be the same. But there is a difference in excess value. So in order to get the same excess value, we require one more block. So magpuno ka diha. Okay? Because si YS is equal to RSGS. And RS also, XS is equal to YS, which is equal to GSRS. But in here, dili mo to siya identical. Okay? Pag-amot dito. So, yung mong buhaton, nagpuno lang ka o GS. Okay. Usa lang ka block. Next, we have reduction rules. So, rule number 1, check for the blocks connected in series and amplify. Rule number 2, check the blocks connected in parallel and simplify. There are some books class nga giusan niya as rule number 1. Naapoy books nga giusan niya as rule number 4. Okay? So, kani yan lang ibagsa-magsa ni tutorials point. So, for rule number 2, parallel and simplify. Rule number 3, feedback loop and simplify. Rule number 4, if there is difficulty in take-off point, with take-off point, we'll simplify, shift it towards right. Right ha, right. Si summing point towards left.
Magbaylo sila, miss.
Yes, si take-off point ni right para dili ka mag to aid kinamong nga instances class nga duha ka block is separated by a take-off point. So you can shift it towards the right or you can shift it towards the left. Pwede mo gamiton si left or right. Same with summing point katong introduce sa to ganina, left or right. Okay, which is visible sa duha, not only right or left. Okay? Repeat the above steps till you get the simplified form, which is a single block. Okay? Consider the block diagram below. Okay? Okay. So step number 1.
Mura na lang kuhan. Windmill.
So,
Miss, show the answer, miss.
Okay, step number 1. Use rule 1 for blocks G1 and G2. Okay? So for rule number 1, rule 1, 2, 3 class, isunod rin na siya. Okay? Series parallel feedback. Tanawin mo tanan naka-series, simplify. Tanawin mo naka-parallel tanan, simplify. Tanawin mo naka-feedback, simplify. Okay? So for this one, series.
G1, G2.
Multiply. Muna niya siya. Okay? Use rule number 2 for blocks G3 and G4. G3 and G4 are parallel with each other, plus. Okay? Now, use rule number 3 for G1, G2, and H. Kana sila class, feedback man eh. Diba? Naka-feedback man eh.
yes.
So, yung buhaton is G all over
1 plus G,
1 plus
1 to 2.
GH. Kani. Tumanitibok G. Muna siya. And use rule number 4 for shifting take-off point after the block G5. So, kani class, take-off point na dyan gagawag nilang duha. So, imong buhaton, you can shift it to the right.
Model.
Diba? Muna yung gimin. You can shift it to the right, which is more visible. Right, diri nga part. Okay? Pero mas use si right class. Okay? Abot diri, mapunta na siya diha. Diba? Now, if mapunta na siya diha, G3
Times.
and G5 are in series.
Thanks.
So, i-times na nimo. So, pag shift nimo pa doon sa right class, di ba, magpuno man ka og reciprocal
Para
sa
ma-cancel
kanin.
lang.
Para ma-correct siya.
Correct.
Di ba? So, H2 all over G5 na siya.
Ay, kung unsa day tong kuan miss ka ng
Kung nag-shift kag right, magpuno ka og reciprocal.
Sa
Kung
left.
nag-shift kag left, magpuno ka sa buo.
Parang wala na buhay na itabo.
Para way na itabo. Buo, G of S ra ba nga block. Kung right, that's the reciprocal
Ay,
of the G of S.
kung right miss, ang right nga block mo imong reciprocal.
Siya right nga.
Kanang kuan miss bang ang G5?
Magian niya.
Magian niya
Yes,
miss ba?
yes. Of course, ang block naman.
Okay. So
But
palitan
this
miss.
is before the block. After the block, unsa man nga block ang imong gimin. This is the take-off point. This is before the block. Diba? You shift it to the right, then this is after the block. What is that block? G5.
Kung magian niya miss is ang G3 plus G4.
Oh, kani imo. Para wala yung hitabo.
1 over
Para-
G3 plus G4.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but it rarely okay. Adi dyan siya yung rarely. Nandiyo times na may tabo na siya. Mataas na ang process. So, kani G5. So, mahitabo, hindi na ito straight. H2 all over G5. Right? Use rule 1 for G3, G4, G5. Multiply.
Multiply.
Diba? Kani.
Yes.
Use rule number 3 for G3, G4, G5, and H3. Naka-feedback naman ni siya. Okay? So, kani, all over 1 plus kani yung kana. Yes. Okay. Now, use rule number 1. Series naman yung duha. Mawala ba ni siyang sa aming junction? Kaya mo naman yung feedback. Usa na lang. Ang usa, gisumpay ani niya, cascade na, series. Multiply. Kana.
Feedback na sa.
Hey, so gi-multiply ra na siya diretso class. Okay, wala ra na gi-distribute kay taas na. Bago man gi-feedback pa jud. Ay.
May Harry Potter.
Kanay. Pag-abot diha, una ni siya ang final. Now, let's solve that one.
Okay, solve pa dyan din.
Of course.
Ay, ang con, miss ang pang-solve, miss kay shift solve siya.
Ha? Mamatlab na siya.
Matlab eh.
Pero, class, timan ang mamatlab, dili jud.
Correct.
Ang katong tibuok, dili ba na rin ba? Dili ba na is? Ang inyo imatlab, katong na kani.
Kana.
Kato.
Ha?
Kana, mga tagal, at G is equal to pak, at H is equals to this one, then mahatag ka og syntax nga, mag-subject transfer function.
Ay, ang kana mo input sa MATLAB miss, nakaulahin no?
Kato.
Ay, ganun sa taas?
Wala kay block diagram nga gihatag.
Okay.
Kasi mga unit.
Nalagay G2 over G5 ba na miss?
One.
G1 kanang
G5 squared? Gisayaw-sayaw na mga numbers.
balik ko na group sa
Save ka group, save ka.
Adili ka katong rule ba balik ko sa file.
Masayop ka group, mag-post ka Facebook, dagan ka, mong hey, post ni mo kay Kuhan, kanang daot nga, Kuhan.
Okay, so this is our transfer function for a feedback loop, for a negative, positive na siya, di ba? So, minus na.
Minus,
Sorry.
minus
So,
Okay, so that's a positive feedback.
wala na lang ko na
So,
kanang mo.
minus ang ihang denominator. So, T, ano na lang, kanilang, G all over 1 minus G.
Oh, miss. Kuhan,
What's
miss.
the G?
G1, G2,
G1, G2,
G5 squared.
Ayaw, katong-katong nasa block diagram. Answer naman na.
Oh, 1 miss.
Katong nasa block
G-
diagram.
G3,
G1, G2, G5,
Times G3 plus G4.
okay, all over 1
Pagka ng
minus
mga
G.
negative na feedback
Mabuhay na sa imong denominator.
Hindi, ang kana, ang gibasihan na ang Kuhan man, ang input o
H1
output.
man ba? Nagibas niya na na.
Dili, ang RS o RS. Sa transfer function.
Oh, i-plus ka na kay ang
Oh, okay.
Okay, nag-minus.
G1 minus feedback negative. G3, G4 positive.
Sa dapit miss.
H3 H3 positive. Igugay.
Oh, boring.
Sakto
1
dahil
plus
pa.
G1, G2, H.
Oh, muna na siya yung 1. Na siya output.
Asa isuot na miss ka na miss.
1 plus yung mali ako siya. G1, G2,
H1.
Ang step 5 may economies na. So what?
H1. Season 5. Wala na.
times 1 plus times G3 plus G4 times G5 H3 tapos over H
Times G5.
1 minus G1D. Yan ang pH. H2 over G5. Upol.
Masaya lagi ka pa, udagan ng Facebook post ka pa.
H2 over G5.
Yes, what is siya?
Iba na.
What is siya?
Yes.
What's our G? Di ba kani? Kana na sa baba. Tanang mo sa kana naka-feedback. All over 1 minus G times H. Our feedback block is H2 all over G5. So to solve that one, let's simplify this.
1 minus
Ay, complex function. Ha? Complex function din siya. Ano ang complex function na siya? Ano ang complex function na siya?
This denominator divided by naman na siya yung visible 1, this 1 multiplied with 1, yahoo, 1 plus G1, G2, H1, multiplied with 1 plus G3 plus G4, G5, H3,
Ang bali, ang
minus, may minus na siya, kani, divided by kani, of course 1, multiplied that 1, G1, G2, G5, G3 plus G4. Di na 6 ha? G na G. Multiplied with H2. So isumpay na lang ako si H2 din rin. O si
G5.
Okay, kupihan ko na ito ang numerator.
Bali, miss, ang kalang sa taas, miss, mga cancel, miss.
Online cancellation may tawag.
Gato, kag makapasko pa ka, dili.
Robinson, magpasko eh. Okay, so using this one, okay, inigbalian ni class. Ako na lang dyan sa wato.
Nagbalian na, magbalisan ka. Ikaw, baliwan.
Pwede akong diretso cancel?
Pwede na, miss.
Okay.
Masaktan
Now,
na, miss.
igbalian ni kahit mahimo ni siya numerator, kani denominator. Diba? So, ma-cancel out ni siya. Kani o kani. So, ang nabilin sa numerator, G5.
G5.
Multiplied sa G5 diha.
G1, G4.
Miss, di na
G1,
ma-cancel,
G2.
miss.
Asa?
G1, G2, G5. Dapat rin kuhan, miss. So, G1, G2, G5 is G3 plus G4.
Kani? Eh, kani.
Dili, na-H2 na ba H2?
Cancel mo, cancel na.
Kani yung may balik.
Dili.
Dito, kani sa numerator.
Ah.
Wait sa. All over. Ato mo ato class, ato sugod na ka. Pwede man siya pwede ni siya, kani, imo i-cancel. Pwede siya pwede, kaya naman siya minus.
Ah, okay.
Kung stand-alone siya, you can. Okay ba? Saan siya minus. So, mahabilin niya kung kay kani, all over kani. Kaya pwede man mo makancel, di ba? Kani ang denominator, kani ang numerator, kani po na denominator, hindi na siya pwede. Okay. So, mahabilin kay kani, multiply with another numerator, G5.
G5.
So, ito na G5 squared.
G5 squared.
G5
Ah,
plus
okay.
G4. Then, mo ni siya ang
Denominator.
Denominator.
Denominator. Y
Sakto.
plus G1, G2, H1,
Di mo po may tabo miss na mas alone na siya kaya mag-violate tapos sa rules sa kuwan. Sa pag-evaluate sa block day.
Sa rules of survival. Isang pa ni cancel na po.
Exam pa nila magkuhan. May tabo o kuhan may tabo sa lunch.
class na siya, G5 diri ha.
Yes,
Kasi
miss.
G5, pwede man na ito mag-multiply diri. Asa naman eh?
Sa H1 o H3.
Although, pwede na mo siya multiply, i-multiply na na, pwede din distribute. Okay?
Ay,
Sakto naman.
lagi miss pareha tong kaganina nga kuhan kay saming ng ay series na ni. Sa pusa. Hindi kay ka-series mo ba ng kuhan? Kuhan
Sige, sige.
ang kanang H1, H3.
Sakto. Okay. Ano, para hindi mo maglibog. Ako na lang ibutang. Ako na lang i-diretso o multiply. Okay, kani, ako na lang ibuhat kay i-multiply na lang ako sa daan. So, si H2 dire, si G5 diha. So, the denominator is this one. Yeah, makopy mo na siya diha, di ba?
Yes,
Kaya mo man
yes.
siya. Kani divided by 1 is kani, multiplied by 1, of course, kana.
Di man siya makuhan miss, makancel. Kaya huwag mo po siya kapareha sa taas.
Hindi, sa pwede kaya naka-minus na siya diha.
Naka-minus na
Unless
siya diha.
naka-multiplication. One siya, which is kana.
Kana miss, important pa na kuhan.
Depende kung sa ang game may ata.
Wala na. Ibutan mo na eh.
Okay. Ano siya? Okay, so next topic class is signal flow. Okay. So, signal flow graph. Okay, so for signal flow graph, it is a graphical representation of algebraic equations in okay. So we have here basic elements of signal flow graph. You already know node. So for node, okay.
Pwede yung mapasend ng link sa kuhan.
Yes. Pwede na siya. Akong ibutan na naman. Control systems, tutorials point. Okay. So node is a point which represents either a variable or a signal. There are three types of nodes. We have input node, output node, and the mixed node. For input node, it is a node which has only outgoing branches. Output node, it is a node which has only incoming branches. Mixed node, of course, kung bisan ka. So we have an example here. Okay. So, the nodes present.
Mara magkatong sa yung burger si kanina.
So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the nodes. We have Y1, Y2, Y3, and Y4. Y1 and Y4 is considered the incoming node and the input node and the output node. Okay, si input node naa siya outgoing branches. Si output, of course, na gadong niya. Okay, kuha. And Y2 and Y3 are mixed nodes or the combinational nodes. Kay si Y2, naa siya outgoing. Si Y3,
Pabalik.
naa siya incoming. Si Y3 na apoy outgoing. Si Y2 na apoy incoming. Kuha.
Yes, miss.
Okay. Next, we have branch. So branch is a line segment which joins two nodes. It has both gain and direction. For example, there are 4 branches here. We have 1 branch, 2 branch,
3,
3,
4.
4. Okay? And this A, B, C here class are gain. Okay? Gain A, gain B, gain C, gain negative D. Kung negative feedback. So positive feedback, positive D. Okay? Now, for example, okay, so we have here an example. Sorry. Example equation. Hatagan mo equation inyong buhaton nga signal flow graph. So, if we have that equation, okay, now, ningon siya, y2 is output, is equal to A12, Y1 plus A42, Y4. Miss, need yun siya nga A12, naming ra na niya gihatag.
Kay kuan man kanang Y1, Y2.
Yes, depende ra dyan na sa name niyo diha. Pwede butangan ninyo ha, A lang dyan na diha, or AA, AB, hindi dyan na sa inyong placeholder. In here, iyan ang default pa sa pagka-A12 means Y1, Y2. Okay, ningon man siya. Y2 is the output, Y1 and Y4 is the input. Okay? So, aring ka magtudlo ni Y2. Okay? Now, ano siya? Y1, A12. A12, Y1. Sorry, ani Y1, padung ni Y2 na siya A12 nga or gain nga A12. It is denoted with a greater than nga sign.
Yes.
Okay? Next, plus daw ni Y4, A42. Now, si Y2 ang output, si Y4, since output man siya, so si Y4 ang output ani ato siya ni Y2. Nga na ay A42. Plus man siya, so plus.
Okay.
Positive. Now, Y3, okay, Y3 is Y2 nga na ay A23. Yeah, Y5 nga A53.
Yes.
Okay? Padung siya diha. Dili man pwede mo ana class, dili siya na pwede hitabo. Okay? One branch at a time. So Y5 papunta ni Y3 nga na-gain nga A53. Si Y4 ang output gigikanan na siya ni Y3 na A34. Now Y5, so for Y5 si Y4 na ay A45 nga gain. But for Y3, A35 ni ambak siya. Nganong dili man pwede miss, of course, of course, dili po siya kaambak. Okay. So A35, Y3. Ana. Next, we have Y6, A56, Y5. Of course, line na lang siya. Now, if you draw the overall system, muna ni siya.
Oh.
Okay? A12, Y1 plus kani, di ba? Inyo na siyang isumpay tanan class. Muna na. Isumpay na natin kung tanan ninyo na solve.
Sa analyze kay drawing. Drawing man sa.
Yes. Kani, muna answer.
Kung nagkuhan pa, drop pa.
Kasabot ra? Next, we have converting
Line diagram, 62
block diagram
volts.
into signal flow diagram. Okay, if this is our block diagram, muna atong signal flow. Okay? Tanaw. So, every junction or every connection is considered a node. Of course, this is input. Wala dyan. Na siya input nga node. Okay? Pag-abot diri, si kaniwang good si node is na connection from here. Naapod siya block. So, it is considered na connection. So, ipangalan na siya Y1. Samot na connection diri, Y2. Okay? Si G1 o si G2, buwagon na connection, Y3. Samot kani. Kaya naman siya connection diri. Y4. Y5, Y6, okay? Kani Y7, Y8, of course, Y9.
Bale, miss, sa aming junction, may pangalan ng Y. Kunya ang black, ang kanang kuan.
Ang blocks are the gates.
Dakuan, mga araw.
Yes, arrow ang representation sa gain. Di ba? In this part, gain na siya.
Oo.
Di ba? Kanina, ang gingang transfer function. Pwede po ng gain is in terms of transfer function. Now, pag humana to og name or pagbutang og mga nodes, ato na siya himuong signal flow graph. From Y1 to Y2, wala siya gain. Considered 1. Butang lang kanina. Di ba?
Yes.
Para ang system na to, ang system na to, mo recognize siya nga, okay, 1, din ako mangitag number. Okay? Pag-abot ni Y2, padong ni Y3, na ay G1 nga gain. Pag-abot ni Y3, padong ni Y4, na ay G2. Ang mga line lang sa klasa, ang horizontal lang sa atong tanawon. Pag-abot ni Y3, padong ni Y5, wala. Y4, wala. Y5 to Y6, wala. Wala. Dilingon wala. Walay G ba?
One.
Pero na 1. Okay? Now, Y6 to Y7, G3. Y7 to Y8, 1.
1.
Then Y8 to Y9, G5. Now, if you look at here, Y6 to Y8 na ay G4 positive. Tama ba?
Promise.
Y6, Y7 rather. Sorry. Y6, Y7. And we have Y9 to Y5, negative H3, negative feedback. Okay? Negative feedback. Yes, negative feedback. So, Y9 to Y5, that's 8, negative H3, Y5. Negative H3, Y9. Sorry. Now, this one, si Y8, papuntang Y1. Positive feedback. Okay, pag-abot ni Y4, padong ni Y2, negative H1. Okay? Mura ba?
Yes.
Okay. Si Y6 o si Y7 class, ito ka dyan na iyaha, kay Tandi o Kani.
Bantayanan day kay ang kuan
So
mismo.
ang Kani siya is the horizontal. Yan naman siya yung feedback. Diba? So magbutang na siya rin ha. Dili pwede butang ang lain di ang nasa. Usara dyan na siya. Loyal na siya class. Hindi naman itang lain. G4. Kuhara.
Bali miss, sa kuan sa usa ka branch kay dapat ang konekta niya kay usa ra pud ka branch. Dili pwede mag multiple branch.
Yes. Kaya kung imo nang buhaton class, sige ha. Pagbutang kag ingon ana, buhaton nimo diha sa man nimo pag. So class, pwede hatagan mo og signal flow graph. Inyong imuon og block diagram or tagaan og block diagram nga imuon og signal flow graph. But for ganina, equation inyo yung buhatan og block diagram. Dili man pwede mo hatagan mo og block diagram buhat. Nya inyo paitan equation. Huwag imong kabaw unsa si Y1 ba o si Y2 o si Y1 o si Y3.
Ay miss, kuan miss. Unta dili nga kuan equation niya mo ang block diagram. Kumaraglapad. Equation niya atang miss niya mo ang block diagram.
Saan pag-i-plan?
Tagaan.
Dali nga ang H2 imo pag ikuan input.
Tagaan ang anak. For example, yung G.
Dali like R S.
Then I drawing niya.
Equation.
Okay. And next meeting,
Ate, may mga ba na feeds lot?
Tinuod.
next meeting will be Mason's gain formula or the Mason's gain.
Dili mo kuan dili mo bukagon.
So si Mason's gain class next na lang. Okay? After ni sana all taas of Hawaii.
Next makapahuway day miss.
Kami kay mo panso magyapon mi. Why estudyante pero panso gyapon.
Immortal ang konting immortal ang pakonting.
Miss, abroad na lang.
Ay, wala mo sa one.
Abroad na lang, miss.
Ayaw. Okay, question, clarification, mga tanamit. Pwede pa send sa notes, pwede pa send sa list. Yes, ako is
Yes.